Eddie Munson, and there's been a huge amount of theories putting out that he will be coming back in Stranger Things season 5, and I really do agree with this because he was not just one of the best. He was basically the best character in Stranger Things season 4. I'm gonna put it at that. Became a fan favorite after the first scene he was in, and Joseph Quinn, who plays him, is just an amazing actor, and he's been in other projects now with The Quiet Place and basically playing Johnny Storm in the Fantastic Four now. So the actor's been skyrocketing after playing this role, and unfortunately this character died in the final battle of season 4, and he was with Dustin with a awesome emotional conversation between both of them, and I just loved it, as well as the father that we had to let know that his kid wasn't going to come back to him. It was very emotional, and I personally I love this character, and a lot of people have been talking about how Vecna, being this more even dominant foe now in season 5, is going to likely use the dead to haunt his living victims, and likely Eddie Munson's going to come back in somewhat of a like monster or creepy said role or something like that, but I don't really agree with that because Eddie Munson was such a friendly, nice character, and I don't know if they want to take away all that and portray him as this, thing that Dustin could have prevented of some sort if Dustin is going to be either captured or is going to be inflicted anyway by Vecna's mind flare, mind storm, whatever you want to call it. Instead, I kind of want to just flashback maybe when Dustin is looking back at the past before going into this other final battle, probably before the end of season 5 or after Vecna is defeated, because come on, it's going to be season 5, Vecna's going to get defeated. They're not going to do a Stranger Things ending here. I hope not. Anyway, I do find that this is going to be something that they're likely going to do. I really don't want them to do sort of what they did with Billy. Billy was such an awesome character. I didn't want to see him again as this haunted portrayal for Max. It was just, come on, man. That character was so awesome. He redeemed himself at the end, and then we still have to go through how he's this monster. And, man, he freaks me out, man, when I see him on the big screen. He has some aura. But anyhow, I really do hope that Eddie Munson's going to come back. I do believe he's going to. I think the directors, everyone saw how much he really connected with the audience, and to bring him back in this cool role to make people feel a bit more of some closure for the end of this entire show, I think that would be very, very awesome. So I think that's likely going to happen. Now, what's also interesting is that another theory that people talk about is Callie returning from season 2. Now, Callie was a character that also had the ability to create illusions, and she was there when Eleven took an unexpected trip to Chicago, trying to figure out how to go through all of this, how to figure out if that person was also from the Rainbow Room. So it was cool to see that sort of character and that cool arc that we got to see in season 2, but to my knowledge, she was not mentioned at all in season 3 or 4, and we didn't get to see much of her. And people pointed out theories before season 4 released that she was going to get her own sort of flashback, and Henry Creel was going to help a lot of the kids escape from the facility. Obviously, if you watch season 4, that is not what happened at all, and he basically slaughtered all of them, and people were wondering, where is she? And she escaped the facility when she was young, so we never got to see what was going on with that. So with her not being actually in season 4 at all, and it was nowhere to be seen, people were wondering, where is she from? Why can't we not see her again? This is unfair. Henry Creel would not save her. So there was a lot of things going in this loop, but with her not really being a part of the later 2 seasons, I find it unlikely that character will return, or any of those characters in that group. But people have said that maybe she will come back. Maybe the writers will let her, go back to the Hawkins and help Eleven in some form, but I do not see that happening in the case. Again, it's a toss-up. That's how I see it. But let me know what your thoughts are on this character. Okay, this one is kind of 2 ideas, 2 theories, if you will, and I'm gonna, try my best to, make it make sense. But basically, people have said that the Stranger Things entire story is just the gang's Dungeons and Dragons campaign, which I have to say is pretty much true. You have all these villains resembling the different villains that we've seen, and also the characters that we've been around. But I also don't believe that this theory would happen in some way, because if it was all a dream and people just woke up at the end, that the entire emotion, everything that gone through just felt off. And apparently it was debunked by the Duffer Brothers ahead of season 5, so I'm very glad about that. But that was a theory for so long. Apparently it was supposed to be this full circle thing that a lot of fans were speculating on, and I was just not really satisfied to that if that was how they would end the show. Like, I already did Squid Game season 3, guys. I don't want to go through this other interesting theory that would position the story way differently for me, so I'm glad that's not true. However, the idea that the entire story is positioning between the characters that would be in the game that people, of course, the kids were playing, is interesting because people have said that Vecna won't be the Season 5 main villain. Apparently, Vecna isn't Stranger Things Season 5's main villain. They ain't the big bad. Apparently, Boris is in the game Dungeons & Dragons. So, Vecna is just more or less a second big bad, and that it's actually going to carry along and introduce a new, greater threat. And I do not like this theory at all. I personally love Vecna as a looming threat. I personally love how they was able to introduce this character throughout season 4, and that at the end we had this huge tease before the break, and then the last 2 episodes we really got to show it and see all the power that this character really is. We got to understand the motives, the emotions, how this character went through what they did, and the backstory as well of his family. And I find this to be an interesting villain, and I could see maybe that this will be Boris, but it's more like he's going to become Boris. I kind of like that more theory on my side, but a lot of people alone really think that there was going to be another final villain ahead of Vecna, and Vecna is just going to be built up into this other second big bad, which I don't like. I personally love him as a character. I think he's going to be great. Obviously, I think he's going to die at the end. I really do. Either by the hands of Eleven or someone. I do not know who, because, come on. Vecna is going to be, like, the most powerful thing. And now with the whole Upside Down basically carrying in the Hawkins, and he's going to be probably likely more powerful than he's ever been. I don't know, man. It's going to be interesting, but apparently people have said that the Mind Flayer is actually the real big bad and is Boris, so there's been all these carrying along with theories that each other person is Boris and not Vecna is going to be Boris, but let me know what you think of this. I feel like this definitely dilutes everything that Vecna has been built up to. That's why I feel like the stakes, the characterization of this villain has been went through so much and has been established. He is the final villain, but again, let me know your thoughts on that. That was a big theory. This theory also coincides with other 2 theories that I want to talk about, which one of them is that Will is going to basically have a huge connection to the Upside Down and will help the game defeat it. Now, if you don't know, Will has basically been the main character, if you think about it, since season 1, and we saw what he went through with season 1. We went through it with all the Demogorgon and then the Mind Flayer, obviously, and now with Vecna through all what we've seen already. And we can already see at the end of season 4 that he's still somewhat connected to Vecna. I think a lot of people have said in their theory videos that Will is connected to Vecna in some way, and he's been present, and not since Vecna made his, appearance known that he could really figure out what was going on. But now with all of them understanding Vecna and understanding his connection of now with the Upside Down really coming into the Hawkins of our world, it's gonna get pretty crazy, and I feel like this could not be more likely. I think a lot of people have seen that. And another theory is that with Max, which is very interesting because Max almost died when playing against Vecna in the season 4 finale. And if you don't know, what Vecna had to do in season 4 was open the portals after he basically defeated his victims and stored them in, I would assume, what was Vecna's mind, which was basically Vecna's upside down realm, if you will, of his old house in his backstory. And which was interesting is that when Vecna was doing the ritual and killing Max to open the last portal for the Upside Down to happen, that technically did happen. However, Vecna was obviously caught off guard from what Eleven was able to do, and all the friends were able to basically flame him with, let's just say, fire in the Upside Down. And my boy Steve Harrington, he came in clutch. And now Vecna was kind of weakened and wasn't able to finish the ritual, if you will, with Max. And Max was then still very weak because she lost a lot of her bones. Her bones was crushed. It was pretty bad. And we did see that she did fall to sleep, I believe, or die, and that Eleven then actually saved her in some way, and now she's in a coma. So she technically did die, but the portal still happened, everything still happened with that. But again, she's still alive, and people have said that the consciousness of Max is going to be what is maybe likely a map or another huge connection to Vecna that the kids will be able to use to defeat Vecna, which I find very likely as well. I do believe there is somewhat a connection between Mac's consciousness and Vecna or the Upside Down, similar to what Will went through with Season 2 and going through all those burrows of tunnels that resembled the Mind Flare. So there's so much there that I already see with these characters that it's going to be very interesting to see how it all wraps up. Now, I know we can go through this with even more theories, but I wanted to just go through some and just let me know what your thoughts are on Stranger Things. I am very excited for this show. We have the first part in November, second part in December, and then we have the third part on New Year's. So I'm very interested, very excited. Again, let me know your thoughts on who you think is going to die and who you think is going to be alive, stay alive. We're going to talk about it in a future video if this video does well. Again, subscribe and like. We're trying to get to 100 subscribers. But other than that, I will see you guys in the next one. Love ya.